tell me about your first New York Film Festival here, The Last of England, the late Derek Jarman, working with him, and what that might have meant to you. And then, I guess, to put it in a rather corny way, in those 25 years, can you speak of certain roles or moments, highs and lows in your career, where they were absolutely pivotal, where you sort of were absolutely disgusted? So to back up, your first New York Film Festival, the late great Derek Jarman, and the pivotal moments or lack thereof in the time between then and now that you can look back on and say, wow, I'm glad I soldiered on and found myself here.
I feel that I can talk about one thing which answers or speaks to all of those things. Derek Jarman, I wouldn't be working in front of the camera were it not for Derek Jarman. He was the first filmmaker I ever met, and I met him at a point when I had decided I didn't want to be an actor, for sure. And he opened the door and said, okay, so come and play with me then, in my kindergarten full of experimental misfits. And I stayed in the playpen for 9 years, and we made 7 films together, one of which was The Last of England, which is possibly my favorite film, in fact, that I've ever been involved in. And I remember very well bringing it here to New York, and somebody coming up to me afterwards and telling me the story of this non-narrative film, and me saying, yes, absolutely, absolutely, and him saying, is that right? And I said, yeah, absolutely, and someone afterwards saying to me, but that's not right. And I said, well, who are we to say? You know, you make a non-narrative film and it's for someone else to tell you what it's about. But that atmosphere of kind of freedom gave me the possibility to become this weird sort of half model, half clown that I am, that doesn't really feel like the kind of actor I thought one might have to be. I can't imagine ever having been able to develop that sort of hybrid with anybody but Derek Jarman. That kindergarten atmosphere and that the way in which he encouraged us to involve our own lives in the films. The films were very often autobiographical, as I say, non-narrative documentaries about family life with the Jarmans. That was, heady meat for me. And when he died, very sadly, in 1994, I was up a gum tree. I was never going to be a proper professional. So from that moment on, I've just been living on the fumes of my enthusiasm, which was sown by him in those 9 first years of me working with him. So really there's been nothing from then, since then and now, except for the delight of finding other people who I love to work with. I mean, it would have been possible to imagine that there was only one, and I lucked out. I worked with him for 9 years and then he died. But the real miracle of my life is that people keep coming out the woodwork and wanting to play with me, and I am having more and more long-term working relationships with people like Jim Jarmusch. This is the 3rd film I've made with Jim. Luca Guadagnino, Sally Potter, Lynn Hirschman, people who I've worked with time and time again and feel like family. So that early injection of benzene, that's seeing me right the way through, and I'm very grateful for it.